Thank you, everybody, for coming this afternoon. I think it is officially afternoon for all of the time zones. I have to tell you, the time zone tracking has been like the end of me this week. But really happy to be here. Glad to have you all here. My name is Lauren Clark. I work for Beyond School Bells, which is Nebraska's statewide after-school network, and I am on the planning team for this wonderful conference. I have to say we're celebrating a very successful morning and excited to end the day with this afternoon's panel. So when we were planning and talking about this conference and thinking about some of the things that after school programs might need for implementing STEM in their organizations, we really thought that it would be important to talk about career readiness and talking about how we can teach STEM education to students through career exploration. And we know that sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, but we hope that this wonderful panel of experts can share some of the ways that they have personally implemented career exploration and some of the ways that they have helped other communities do the same. So I won't take up too much time because I know I want to have plenty of time for our panelists to answer our questions. So I'm going to introduce Maud Abil. She is our leader for this panel, our moderator. So Maud, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We're going to start off by introducing our panel, our awesome panel here, and just really have each of them have a chance to tell you who they are and a little bit about their organization, so you're kind of grounded in the perspective that they're coming from. So let's start with Liz. Just share your name, title, and a little description of your organization.
Maud, I'm Liz Nuskin, and I'm representing the Ohio After School Network. We've been working in Ohio for 5+ years to bring entrepreneur education into the out of school time field, and it's a great fit for both the out of school time work as well as workforce readiness.
Great, let's go to Gabrielle.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Rowley, and I work at Reach Higher Montana, which is a nonprofit working primarily with high school students across Montana to help them prepare for success after high school. So whether that's a job or college. And my role is the director of the Montana Work-Based Learning Collaborative, which is about 30 different public and private organizations working to improve, expand, and enhance work-based learning across the state. So that includes career exploration and awareness.
Great, let's go to Tom.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tom Cheney, and I'm the Executive Director of Advance Vermont here in Vermont. The work that we do is really helping to ensure that Vermonters are able to see and ultimately pursue a career and education pathway that meets their goals, hopes, and dreams.
Fabulous. Let's go to Joshua.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Jones. I'm the director at the Career Academy here in Lincoln, Nebraska. It is a dual credit program focusing on juniors and seniors exploring high school differently through the community college, where they get to pick a career that is of interest to them. We also work with younger populations through our CTSOs, FFA, HOSA, Skills USA. So just some different ways to navigate career education and engage youth at different age levels.
Great. And last but not least, Emily.
I'm Emily Morgan, and I'm also with the Ohio After School Network. I'm working on a project called Moonshot Ohio, and our goal is to increase access and opportunity for out-of-school time STEM learning, and we have a big emphasis on workforce development in STEM.
Great, thanks to you all. So Josh really kind of hit on what the first question is, which is really related to how does STEM career exploration benefit youth of all ages? So Emily, actually, can we start with you and have you speak to how does STEM career exploration benefit youth of all ages, and how do you vary it depending on the age of the youth?
Well, we've been using a guide from our State Department of Education, and things in Ohio have changed so much. Our education department has actually changed its name to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. So there's a huge emphasis on workforce. There's a lot of companies, especially in STEM, coming to Ohio. So they have released a lot of really helpful materials on career exploration. And can I share my screen? Is that okay to just pull something up real fast? I can put the link in the chat too. This
Sure,
is the,
no, go for it. And yeah, and the link in the chat as well.
I'll do the link.
oh, thanks, Liz. So for elementary, it's about career awareness, just realizing there's other jobs besides the ones that your family does, and teaching, and the group of people that you are around. For middle grades, it's more about exploring careers, like what is it like to be in this career? And that type of thing. And then for high school, it's career planning. So, Ohio is hoping that by middle school, kids have an idea of what direction they want to go so that they can start choosing classes in high school that can put them on the path to their career choice. So we use this as a guide for planning at different grade levels about what's appropriate at different grade levels.
Great. And Gabrielle, would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, talking about how STEM career exploration positively impacts all youth. I think there's, as we're talking about career exploration, we're talking about what do we want to do in the future? And research has shown there's just immense value in helping young people create a future vision for themselves, because it is a facilitated process. And so young people who have a future vision for themselves are more likely to set goals, more likely to achieve those goals. And so helping students think, what will your future look like? What are you interested in? What are you good at? Maybe it's 2 years if they're in high school, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years down the road if they're in elementary school. But really asking questions and being curious is fantastic. And that also helps students develop a growth mindset. And so because they're inspired to push themselves, they're inspired to think about what could be and then pursue that. So there's a lot of value with that self-awareness, self-motivation, all ties into it, whether you're talking about STEM or other things. But as we know, STEM fields sometimes are less obvious choices to students if their family's not engaged in it, and they see teachers in school. So helping them understand the wealth of opportunities involved are great. Younger kids, I know for elementary school children, there's a lot of wonderful books, even things like what shoes do you wear? There's a National Geographic book. I mean, these are really simple, but 100 jobs. So just getting that, as Emily was saying, what exists out there and broadening the possibilities.
Yeah, Liz, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad Emily shared that Career Connections framework, because that was on my list of things to share. I think that's a great resource, even if you're not in Ohio. But with entrepreneur education, and I think also with STEM, there's an opportunity to incorporate it into programming at all levels, but also you can do just like a little nibble of STEM or entrepreneur education, or you can go deep. So an example for an elementary school student, which could count as career awareness, why not build in STEM or entrepreneur education into your field trips? So if you're going to a bowling alley, why not talk to the bowling alley owner about what's that business like? What's that industry like? How did that person get started in that business? And then you could also do a STEM perspective too. There's a lot of physics involved in bowling. And then to go to the other end for high school students, in Ohio, we have graduation seals. And in Ohio, it's possible to earn those graduation seals with experiences outside of school. And so in Ohio, we have something called the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, where students demonstrate workplace readiness. You could do that with STEM learning or entrepreneurship education resources. And actually, we created a toolkit with an entrepreneur focus, and I'll put the link to that in the chat box.
Great. Tom, I saw you wanting to get in here.
Yeah, what a great discussion so far. The only thing I would add is that I think one thing to reinforce, starting at a young age and then continuing it and adding more depth to it as developmentally appropriate, is talking about how many of these careers will require education and training after high school. So from early on, starting to kind of seed that kind of that expectation that these are wonderful, important careers, but they do require you to continue education after high school. Start to begin to talk about what that might look like. We know that aspiration rates for continuing on to different types of education and training after high school really start to formulate and cement in middle school. So starting that young and starting to kind of broaden that educational awareness is also critically important.
Yeah, great. And Josh, and then we'll go on, we'll keep digging into this.
Going to add one final component from my perspective is the business community. We work a lot at the Career Academy with the business community. Again, we're with juniors and seniors. And Lincoln, for those of you out there, is a town, city of about 300,000 people. What we have seen is that the business community has a desire to be working with students starting at a young age, so that they can see so that they can start getting to know the future workforce, but that the workforce can start getting to know what the business community looks and feels like. And in doing that, it kind of with what Tom was saying, it helps support those students as they get older in a more profound way of what they're going to need to do from an educational perspective, so that when they get to their junior and senior year at the after school space, we've really supported that development, that growth, so that junior and senior year, they might be starting to earn credits towards a welding certificate or an ag certificate that they can then go have meaningful employment. And then we keep our talent in our communities, which I would think all of us see the necessity to do.
Yeah, it's such an important point. Josh, I'm going to stick with you, and let's get into, so I think we as the adults all agree how great STEM career exploration is at every age, and that it has to be differentiated. But let's dig into that more. So like, how do you actually engage students? I think some of the ideas that were shared already kind of get at that, but how do you convince students that this is something worth spending their time on and staying motivated around? What engages students in STEM career exploration?
So in my current role, I have the opportunity to work with students during the school day. And I would say, number one, they get to choose. So they get a choice in the matter. And I think that we can do that, whether it's during the school day or in the after school space. The more choice that we give students, the more buy-in that we're going to give. Two, we create meaningful opportunities and experiences within those choices. So again, at the school that I'm at, and I think all of us can do this, is through partnerships. So we have a partnership with our local school system and our community college to make sure that we're offering college credit for students as they're exploring these areas of interest, so that they're not only exploring, but now they're earning college credit that's transferable, and that has real meat to it when they graduate high school, or even while they're still in high school. And then second, the third thing that I would say that we do from an interest perspective is then we find out ways to engage deeper and richer. So we use career technical student organizations. So those are things like FFA, HOSA, Skills USA, Educators Rising, DECA. These are great national, sometimes international organizations that have a wealth of resources that get into competition, they just open doors for students, and that exists from young ages all the way up. So I think for us, those are three ways to engage students in career tech ed.
That's great. Liz and Emily, can you talk a little bit about, from the Ohio perspective, what it looks like to really engage students?
So I'm just going to start out, Emily, excuse me for jumping in here, but I feel like I do want to just kind of introduce the idea that entrepreneur education and STEM are very closely aligned. So when you think about the design process, design thinking, you have planning, development, creation and evaluation. You do that with STEM, you do that in entrepreneurial endeavors as well. And entrepreneurial mindsets are very closely aligned with STEM, so problem solving, being adaptable, curiosity, resourceful. So in Ohio, actually, we're having a lot of conversations about how to embed entrepreneurship in STEM and STEM and entrepreneurship education, and we're calling it eSTEAM. Just some examples, probably maybe of things that you're already doing in your states. So invention education combines both STEM, creating inventions, but then also thinking about solving problems and pitching it. So, and you can infuse entrepreneur education into any sector. One of the things that we've done in Ohio is infuse it into agriculture education with our partner Venture Lab, which has created a fabulous curriculum where kids maybe research poultry or goats or succulents, and identify a problem within that sector and develop a solution and pitch it. So one example is some students took a field trip to a goat farm, and it turns out goats have bad breath. So one invention that students came up with is goat breath mints. And they had like a science fair event where they pitched their invention. I'm going to toss it over to Emily, who can add more.
Yeah, right along the lines of what Liz was saying, we like to focus on those essential skills that cross over any career. And one of the things I was shared with me recently by one of our career tech partners is a study from the National Association of Colleges and Employers that surveyed employers about what are the attributes that you're seeking in a candidate. And the first one, I don't know if anybody in the chat wants to guess what that first number one attribute that 88.7% claim as the most important skill that they're looking for. You got it, Maud. Problem solved.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Followed by ability to work in a team, followed by communication skills, flexibility, adaptability, and then finally down the list, we have technical skills. So as part of the Moonshot Ohio project, which is a partnership between the Intel Foundation and STEM Next Opportunity Fund and the Ohio After School Network, we have been implementing Intel Future Skills after school programs and camps. And this material is available to anyone in any state. We're fortunate that Intel is coming to Ohio. I don't know if you've heard that Ohio being called the Silicon Heartland now, because we have Intel and then other tech companies following. But I'll put the link in the chat here. These are projects that can be easily done in after school or summer programs, and they are really focusing on an essential skill. So it's not really about the project and what the kids are making as their end product. It's about the skill of perseverance or the skill of empathy or the skill of teamwork. And there's great videos that go along with those. So we like to have that broad perspective, and it really fits in with any career.
Great. Does anyone else want to jump in and talk a little bit about this engagement piece? All right, we'll get into that. I think that'll keep coming up because I think sort of all the strategies that are, it's really about getting the kids excited and engaged. And so I know that one major key to that is the partnership piece. So that's the next question. And Gabrielle, why don't you get us started on that? Sort of who are some of the key partners that you rely on to make the work that you do happen and to make it something that students really feel is relevant and real?
Absolutely. And I think Joshua touched on this quite a lot. The business community is essential when looking at career exploration, because that is the end goal for our students is that they are thriving and contributing in that community. Here in Montana, we do a lot of communicating with businesses, whether it's a small community or a large community. And as Joshua said, the businesses are eager to partner because they're excited about helping students understand what exists in their own community, keeping the talent here. And it benefits the students by, again, broadening their perspectives. We have a really new, burgeoning, thriving, I don't know quite what you want to say, in Bozeman, Montana, photonics, which I didn't know what photonics was until last year, and it's really surprising to a lot of people. And so, they're really excited about helping students understand what that industry is. So looking at how we engage them, I think that there's a lot of different levels that you can ask businesses to participate in. One option is workplace tours. Students love seeing where people work and where the rubber hits the road, whether it's a lab or a hospital. And there's so many different roles within those workplaces that students aren't aware of. They know doctors and nurses, but do they know about the lab techs and the phlebotomists and the radiology techs and all of those pieces? I often recommend guest speakers. I think it's a really fun way if you can't transport students for someone to come talk to the students. It's a fairly low commitment from the business, and it's also really often I find really inspiring for them and fun and engaging. Then there's also things like job shadows for our older students, allowing the student to be there for a few days, see what's really happening, or a couple of hours over a course of days. Informational interviews are another excellent opportunity for middle school or high school students, or even younger, where the workplace is just taking, it's not a huge ask from them, but then the student can really learn a lot more about what is that career like. And it's a great way for them to practice their communication skills and those essential foundational employment skills that we talk about. How do you present yourself? How do you contact someone and schedule an interview? So with support from the out of school program. I think other key partners, as Joshua talked about, the CTSOs are excellent. And I know that they're within the school or community colleges, but understanding the educational partners and even things like WIO or PREETs, if you have students who are needing extra support, understanding what those supports in your community are so that you can refer students to them. Sorry, that was a lot. I'll let someone else share.
No, that was great. Who else wants to talk about partners? Emily, why don't you get us go deeper with that?
Yeah, in Ohio, we have business advisory councils, and this was set up a few years ago where every school district has to be part, it's a requirement to be part of a business advisory council. And these are local groups of business and industry representatives and education, school districts primarily. So at OAN, we're really working to bring after school to the table in these advisory councils. It's not, written in that after school is a part. So we're trying to go to these meetings. We're working with one of the business advisory councils on a career camp. So this summer they're going to have a career camp where they have 6th and 7th graders who will be bused. Transportation is always an issue. So they've got they have some money for busing, and they're going to take them to different businesses in the county so they can see what kinds of jobs are available right there in their area.
Emily, can you say just a little bit more about sort of going to a meeting that you weren't necessarily invited to, or it's not that you're crashing it per se, but that making sure that after school voice is in the room, even if it's not mandated or the norm?
Well, the way I've been doing it is I find someone I know that knows someone. So for this particular example, my sister works for one of the school districts in Greene County. And so I asked her, who would be good to contact. And she gave me a name and said she's great. And I emailed her and I said, I'm Julie's sister. And other places, just finding someone that a colleague knows. So we haven't really gotten into all of them, but that's how we're starting. And I think this next month, I'm invited to speak at the Greene County BAC meeting, so I can talk to the whole group about after school. And I think if we can get in with a few, then the BACs will start talking to each other and start considering after school as an important part of that group.
That's great. I love that. Hats off to your sister. Who else would like to talk about partnerships? We've heard about employers, higher ed, business, kind of coalitions. What else? Tom?
I might just add, and maybe it's really obvious, but your school counselor, in the school that you're working in would be a great place to start. They're always, in my experience, looking for ways to bring this, career exploration into the school day and in front of their students. And they only have so many hours in the day, and they're dealing and juggling with so many different things. I think that's a real opportunity. So I would definitely encourage folks to reach out to those folks.
And Tom, say more about who Advance Vermont partners with. So who are your bread and butter partners?
Yeah, so our organization focuses, it's statewide, it's broader than just after school, but we do think about what state state partners are that we can engage with too, and the resources they may be able to bring. So in addition to working with school counselors across the state, we might be working with vocational rehabilitation counselors or Department of Labor counselors, folks who are working in workforce programs, the Agency of Education, who have, folks similar to Gabrielle's role. So I do think that there are a lot of state resources that are worth tapping. It's very state specific and region specific, but certainly looking at what resources they may have, what folks that they may be able to send to speak with you and with your students as well.
Great. And Josh, I know that you have a lot of experience working with employers. So anything you want to add on to what Gabrielle has said, or bring up any other different kinds of partnerships?
Yeah, no, I always just think leave no stone unturned. Like, I think that we're all desperate for partnerships, and until you overturn that stone, you have no idea. And I'm glad that Tom mentioned just the folks at the public school systems, like having the opportunity to be an employee of Lincoln Public Schools. Again, I think we're always looking for ways to connect our students into deeper opportunities and richer and more fulfilling opportunities than we're maybe able to do in the traditional school day. We're spread thin. And so the more that can happen sometimes after school hours on weekends, the better. So leave no stone unturned.
That's great. And Liz, what would you like to
Yeah.
add?
So I feel the work that I've done in entrepreneur education has brought a lot of non-traditional partners to the out-of-school time field, and I imagine it's probably the same with STEM. And when you talk about workforce development, you find people who are willing to talk to you. So with the entrepreneur education work that we've done, chambers of commerce, particularly in smaller towns that are working really hard to retain their students and not lose that talent to larger cities, they're interested in getting engaged with schools and out-school time programs. And economic development organizations as well. I learned the term economic gardening, which was new to me, but that is the concept. Instead of trying to steal employers from other communities, work to support the growth of entrepreneurs and small businesses in your own community. And so entrepreneurship education has been a strategy for that. And I feel some of the examples that Gabrielle gave and others with entrepreneur education in terms of inviting members of the community to serve as pitch contest judges or mentors to help students develop a business idea and create a pitch. And then also MCs for pitch events and donors of prizes. Has been a way to engage members of the community authentically, but in a way that's manageable to their schedule. So years ago, I managed a corporate employee volunteer program and scheduled employees to volunteer and tutor once a month in a school, and that was, or once a week, and it was like next to impossible juggling people's schedules and changes in the school day and all that. But this is a really easy, simple way to do it and still have it be impactful. And then two other examples I wanted to provide. Parents, a lot of parents are entrepreneurs, and it's very exciting for them to be able to share what they do with their students and their peers. So an example of a faith-based program had a parent who owned a car detailing business. And for that parent to present about being an entrepreneur, I think probably elevated him in the eyes of his daughter. So it wasn't just a car detailing business, but he's a business owner, he's an entrepreneur. And then another suggestion that folks in Ohio have used very effectively is alumni. So it could be alumni from the school or the after-school program have gotten involved as well.
Wow, lots of great examples there. I feel like we could talk about partners for a long time, but let's move on to our next question. And Josh, we're going to start with you. So what's unique about out of school time from your perspective as a person who's currently working in school, like what would you look for from your out of school time partners to like what's the greatest like asset or alignment that they can create around STEM career exploration from your perspective?
Well, I think out of school time is the most underrated work that's probably done with kids, period. One, it's undervalued. I think people on this call would potentially agree with that by the nation. It's not, it's hard, I think, at times. I think that with that, I think that we have to think about how we're going to find the right people to always work with our students. I look at the incredible CLCs, which are after school programs in Lincoln, and they have dynamic programming, and but they work hard at it, and so it's hard work. And I think it's got to be again meaningful, but in a way that connects to the school day, but takes it beyond. So again, it's really hard, and a lot of times it requires folks that are maybe not necessarily working directly with students to kind of create really meaningful programming. And so reach out, find that meaningful programming and rely on it, use it. We do at TCA, we bring in students that are young kids. They come into the Career Academy after school hours, and we don't try to rely on our own stuff. We go out and we find really good things through Beyond School Bells and some of these statewide agencies who can support the work that we're trying to do, because we know that they have the resources. I think I'm rambling, so I might shift it to somebody else. So yeah, somebody else, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think part of what I'm hearing from you is that sometimes I don't know if the in school and the out of school time communities communicate enough. And also just to hear for out of school time folks that you're valued tremendously by the in school folks, that you're not an afterthought, no pun intended. Yeah, let's hear from someone else. Liz, maybe you wanted to share a little bit more about like what are unique opportunities that can happen in the out of school time space for STEM career exploration in particular.
Well, I feel one of the most unique things about out of school time is you can ask the students themselves what they're interested in, and use that to design the programming, which is different from the school day, which may not have that same flexibility. I think also engaging parents. So just given the time that an after school program operates, it's easier to invite a parent into the program. And in addition, so I gave the example of the parent serving as a guest speaker. You can also have educational programming that's directed both to parents and students.
Yeah. Emily, go ahead.
One of the opportunities that we've been promoting in Ohio is the Teen Science Cafe. This is a national program. All the resources are free, and it is an experience where a group of teens, they do all of the planning. They choose who the speakers will be, and they have a regular Teen Science Cafe where they come in and they invite a STEM professional in to speak. They have food, of course, because it's a cafe, and they get to meet other kids who are interested in STEM. And there's usually a hands-on activity. So I recently got to visit one here in Cincinnati, and it was just great to see the kids leading and introducing the speaker and talking about what they're going to do next. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat there so you can check that out. But it's actually a pretty easy lift if it's like you just want to kind of dip your toe into getting STEM professionals to your after-school program or summer program. Setting up a Teen Science Cafe is they have all the materials you need to do it on their website. So I highly recommend.
Very cool. Tom or Gabrielle, do you want to add to this, just sort of what makes the out of school time space kind of unique?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Emily who said, it's a great opportunity for it's unstructured time, right? So students can really customize it for what makes sense for them. So in addition to gathering ideas for what maybe you would tackle as a group from your students, you actually can just, if to the degree you have the technology, put them in front of a computer or put them in front of a video screen and allow them to explore what career opportunities are out there. So Advanced Vermont has a site that we built for Vermont that is called myfuturevt.org. And this is a career and education exploration site where you can get a sense of the careers in the state, the education and training programs that are aligned with those careers, and then get connected to the different additional information and supports you need to pursue your desired pathway. In those types of resources, a lot of states are building them. There's a lot of great national resources out there. A great place for someone just to have a self-directed or perhaps guided journey as they figure out, okay, what am I interested in? What are my strengths? How might this connect to some STEM careers? And then we always want folks to be able to see themselves in these careers. So seeking out some videos that might be STEM oriented, that are some career profiles that kind of walk through somebody's life, maybe not just what that job is, but kind of their story. And those can be really impactful and meaningful and very easy for you all to probably implement if you set some time aside for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like to
I think
echo-
that's super
sorry.
important. That I was just going to say that's super important to, don't overlook the online resources. And things that might make the lift a little bit lighter, and having a facilitated conversation with students that are able to access stuff online could be one way, to like dip your toe into it, or manage when you're on a more limited budget. Gabrielle, sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's okay. I was gonna echo Tom. We have something in Montana called MCIS, Montana Career Information Systems. And it talks about the high demand careers and again, a day in the life of this person. And I think, as you're mentioning, Tom, where it shows here's the education path you might need, folks who are young, regardless of where you are, whether you're first grade or 12th grade. I think it makes the learning that's occurring in school and that's reinforced in the after school program more relevant and provides context for it. And so provides that value for the student. And again, like the guided, just wanted to talk about the importance of the facilitated experience, right? And I know everyone here is educators largely, but remembering to front load experiences, debrief them. And as we are front loading experiences, we're really building again those employability skills of how we are going to, engage in a certain experience. And then again, when you are debriefing experience, you can hit on some of those problem-solving pieces, or as Liz was saying, the entrepreneurial pieces of like, well, how would you do this differently? Or if you were in this organization, what did you see that they were addressing well or weren't? And so depending on the age of the student can really tailor in a lot of different ways. And I love the flexibility that comes with after school time, knowing that often those programs may be struggling for resources. So knowing that there's so many lovely free or accessible programs out there, I think is invaluable.
Hey, anybody else just want to speak to, and also, I don't want us to just be Pollyannish. I mean, we talked about sort of like flexibility as a really strong asset of after school, but then that can also be a challenge because you don't necessarily know if you're going to get the same students every day or every, week, like if it's a weekly program. Anybody else just want to highlight either like a challenge that can happen in the out of school time space related to STEM career exploration, and maybe some ideas of how to address it? And it kind of loops back to that engagement piece. Like, how do you, students have to go to school, or if they're homeschooled, they have to engage in that. Just, like what keeps them coming back in that door?
One of the things that we've done in Nebraska is that we've tried to rely and utilize high school students to be leaders within the after school space. It serves many different purposes. One, it helps fill some of the talent gap that we have sometimes in that after school space. Potentially, it allows pay to be a little less because you don't have to pay an adult necessarily. You can pay high school students. It creates kind of a near peer for the younger kids and the high school students. The dilemma is high school students are usually pretty busy, and especially the ones that we want to try to bring into these spaces. I know in smaller towns, it can be really, really difficult because these students are they're doing everything. And so that's why I think when you can try to like involve another extracurricular activity somehow to be able to create that partnership again. So how do you create FFA experiences at the younger level so that the high school students can lead it as part of kind of their FFA requirements, and you connect it, and then maybe you pay those high school students. I think we've seen some pretty good things in the state of Nebraska with using high school students to help kind of create that a nice flow and solve some of those issues.
Yeah, Lauren, I actually remember that was a priority for Beyond School Bells, is really figuring how to tap into the high school students. Teens as teachers model. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, we are on our last question. Really what I think everyone would like to hear, sort of your last sort of pieces of advice, or something that you just want to make sure if the folks who have spent their time with us this afternoon walk away remembering like one thing, perhaps, like what's the one thing you really want them to walk away with, or something you just didn't get a chance to share when it comes to STEM career exploration in the out of school time space?
I can start. One thing I want to emphasize is don't be afraid to ask a STEM professional to come to your program. We've been just very pleasantly surprised at how many yeses we get, that a lot of STEM professionals want to talk to kids. They want to talk about their job. They love an audience that's interested in what they're doing. And I just don't hesitate to ask.
And Emily, just say one more word, like, do you just cold call somebody, or like, how do you make that ask?
Kind of goes back to the knowing someone who knows somebody. I work with a STEM education center called iSpace here in Cincinnati, and the STEM professionals that we've invited in have been, somebody who knows somebody at GE or P&G. So that's really helpful. So I haven't made any cold calls yet, but I do think that it would work. I just, everyone's been very eager to share their experiences. And I think it's important when you have those folks in too, not just talk about their job, but their journey.
Mhm.
It's interesting how journeys can be, not just a straight shot, and the obstacles that they've overcome to get where they are.
So I'm just going to go around, since I'd like everyone to answer this question. So I'll just kind of go in the order I see you on my screen. So let's go to Gabrielle next.
I know we've been talking a lot about career exploration in general, and some folks are very comfortable with STEM and some are less comfortable if you're not in that world. And I think just remembering that STEM is rooted in curiosity. And I know every person here is curious because you're here, you showed up to learn something today. And our students have innate curiosity. So I think tap into that, and there's just so much that grows from there.
Liz, how about you next?
Okay, I came up with a list because I got so many good ideas from things other people were saying. So first of all, I encourage you to think like an entrepreneur, think like a problem solver. And in fact, we have a program here in Columbus that is providing incentives for their employees to think like entrepreneurs, and they have their own pitch contest. Consider adding entrepreneurship education to your STEM or other programs. If you have a makerspace, what are the students doing with the things that they make? Add entrepreneur education. You can embed it in leadership and other kinds of programming that you're already doing. Find out if your state has graduation seals, and is there a way you can help students earn those? We have programs that have added entrepreneurship to youth employment programs. So we have funded youth employment programs, and I bet you could do that with STEM as well and combine it with credit recovery programs. And then two other things about leveraging your network. Something that we found to be very effective is when you ask those friends of yours, if you can talk to them, ask if you could talk at one of their meetings so you can reach more people at once and not just presenting to one person or reaching out to one. It could be a group of people. And then I'm going to put a resource in the chat box called Entrepreneur, which is entrepreneurship for CTE programs. And it has it's a free year-long curriculum. And it has a ton of great resources for engaging community members as mentors and guest speakers.
Wow, thank you. Tom, I saw that you put something in the chat, but maybe you speak to that and then add it, whatever you would like to say.
Sure, yeah, I just was building off of, I think, what Gabrielle was speaking about earlier around job shadows, informational interviews. And on our website, myfuturevt.org, we have a resource where you actually kind of step-by-step guide for how you might be able to walk students through that process, because it can be intimidating to reach out and do those interviews and job shadows. My last piece of information is that career education and exploration is something that has to be repeated and really over and over. And having one person in to talk about their career is wonderful. Doing one day where you're using one of the great resources that's been shared today is great, but it has to be thoughtful and done over and over throughout a school year and throughout throughout someone's education journey. So we often think of the marketing rule. Sometimes people say it's 7 times or 8 times before something really sticks. And you know this as educators, but it's definitely something that sometimes I think with career exploration, that we don't have to, that it's not a progression, but it truly is.
Yeah, and Josh, what would you like to share?
Yeah, I don't know how much I have to add. I think again, the after school space, I think can serve as that opportunity to extend what happened, but maybe do so in a more exciting, tangible way where you're not restricted. And so even thinking about how within the space of STEM and career tech education, what's happening in this school space, and making it fun and engaging and exciting when they come to you all. And again, I think that comes back to those rich partnerships, starting at the public schools, finding community colleges, universities, colleges to support in the businesses. So I think there's a wealth of resources that have been shared.
Yeah, and also the chat has been on fire with lots of amazing additional resources in here. Lauren, I don't know if we can like share out the chat or the compilation of the resources here. I mean, I think one of the big messages is that there's a lot to take advantage of. There's a lot to consider. And, maybe sort of if you're brand new to this is sort of something I talk to networks about, starting small, starting with a pilot can be a really good way to go. You don't have to, just try to, do a giant thing and engage all the employers in your community. Like maybe just start small and start with a pilot. I think the other thing I just want to raise up from the amazing conversation we've had today is also something that Lauren said at the beginning, is that all of us can share our career journeys with young people. You don't have to be a career expert, a career counselor to share your own journey and sort of model for students. A lot of times we have not had linear journeys. A lot of times we had jobs that helped us decide not to pursue a particular career. So just sharing, having people, adults around them share their career journeys, I think is very impactful. And just also knowing that I think in relation to that, like that students will find that what they don't like to do is almost as important as what they do like to do. So if they get discouraged because like, oh, I really didn't like that job shadow. I thought it was, can't imagine working in that place. So boring. Sort of take that as like, yes, that's a great observation for you. To keep in mind that might not be the right kind of career setting for you. So anyway, just want to make sure that everyone's sort of walking away feeling like we all can contribute to this conversation and to that, as Tom said, that like progression and that, that it's not going to be the one conversation or the one experience. It's going to be lots of different experiences that we can all contribute to. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren, but I've learned so much from all of you. Thank you so much. It's been really fun to moderate this, and appreciate each and every one of you and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, everybody. And Maud, I know as a facilitator, you've been doing a great job of kind of asking questions of others. I would love to ask if you want to share just a minute or two about JFF. I think it's actually one of those really great resources that could be used by any program, and it's completely free. So do you want to have the spotlight for a moment just to share about that, and then I'll take it away.
Okay, so just for a moment, Lauren knows that Jobs for the Future has developed a career exploration curriculum called Possible Futures, and it is free. You can download it from our website, jff.org. You can also have Lauren contact me, and I can give you some access to some of the adaptations that have been made by Out of School Time Network partners. You won't find that on our website. We just don't have those up yet, but it's talk about a big curriculum. It's a very big curriculum. There's a lot to it, but it's very holistic. So what it does is in addition to introducing students to 4 specific STEM career areas, IT, healthcare, engineering, and cybersecurity, it also sort of does the other side that we've talked about, sort of helping students explore like who they are, what they're interested in, how they might be able to combine what they like to do and what they're interested in with potential careers. And also just gets them to think about some of the practicalities that go with choosing a career, like finances and lifestyle, and sort of thinking about like, if I choose this career, is this going to allow me to have the lifestyle that I envision for myself? And it's designed so you do not have to be a career expert in any way. It can be taught after school, in school, summer. We've got some interesting pilots going around. And Lauren herself developed an awesome unit, or a couple of units around sort of high engagement activities you can do with young people, for example, in health sciences, to just get them practicing or familiar with the kinds of things you might do in a health science career. So yeah, thank you, Lauren. It's a pleasure to share that with you.
Absolutely. It's a shameless share. I really love a lot of the resources that you have, and I think it's important. It sounds like a lot of people are appreciating those resources. So wonderful. Well, thank you again to all of our panelists. I will ask panelists if you're willing to share contact information. If people have questions for you, please just drop emails, or best way to contact you in the chat if anyone has some follow-up questions for you. I know we didn't have time for a whole open question for the whole group, so that would be a great opportunity for people to connect further if they have more questions. Otherwise, I will share again. We've shared this in each of our sessions. We have a survey. Please make sure to fill out this survey for each of the sessions you attend. This will help presenters and us as the planning committee kind of refine what we do and what we share with you all, and make sure that we're giving the best resources we can. So take a few minutes, please, if you have not already, to complete that. And otherwise, we will pick back up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central. I'll let you guys all do the adjustment for your time zones from that. But 9 a.m. Central, we'll start with our opening plenary tomorrow. And we really look forward to continuing on this conversation. Thanks, everybody.